Welcome to the ESI Africa studio on the exhibition floor at Inlet Africa 2023. Today we are joined in studio by Sibusiso Skhosana, who is the commercial director at Conlog. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Nancy.
So Conlog has such an established footprint here in Africa. Tell us what you think has been the easiest part about doing business on the continent.
So we all know that doing business in Africa is never easy. But we have had some good successes in a lot of markets, right? And if you look at some of the markets that we've made successes in, is actually some of the most difficult markets to operate in. For instance, Nigeria. We have quite a healthy market share and infrastructure in Nigeria. And to tell the truth, it's going into the market has never been easy, right? Because of all the regulatory requirements, all the market structures that we have to respond to. But the easiest part was really being able to convince our partners and customers that the Conlog solution is first one to go with, two, well tested in a lot of other markets for the past 50-something odd years, right? So that was the easy part. But I mean, in the main, it has been challenging, and it's still challenging today. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think it's important to point out that most of the challenges are actually not even because of anything else, but because of the general challenges that Africa is presented with. For instance, investment, for instance, development, and those type of things. And in some markets, we start talking about availability of currency because there's a prioritization of what they use their currency for. So in the main, it has been challenging, but we've really made some good success. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And talking a little bit about those successes, can you tell us a little bit more about this new smart meter range that Conlog has rolled out? Why did you think it was so important to roll out a new smart meter range?
Fantastic. So firstly, we are tremendously excited about this new journey that we're going to be taking from a smart metering perspective for a number of reasons, but I'm going to share just a few. One of them is that we're in Africa, and we Africans, we understand Africa better, right? Mm-hmm. And with that said, we sat with our fellow Africans and we said, look, for the longest of times, we have been extracting technologies everywhere else that talk to or trying to solve an African problem. Mm-hmm. But I think what we neglected was that the solution to an African problem in this context is actually in Africa. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we sat with our stakeholders, including key bodies that drive specification and a number of other utilities, and we said, what problems are we trying to solve? Then we had those, and we said, how best do we solve them as Africans, right? And you'll hear me stressing this because our challenges in Africa are unique to Africa, right? Mm-hmm. And it's better to have somebody that understands the problem, help solve the problem. So this new meter, this new technology that we're putting out is really a very key building block into solving our African challenges. For instance, if you talk about the access to energy, right? Access to energy I mean, in the entire conference, they've been talking about access to energy through just means, mm-hmm. right? It has to be done in a way that it is first not laborious or expensive for utilities that need to use it, but also it needs to be able to fit the environmental conditions in which they're going to be used, right? So this new range really ticks a lot of those. It ticks the financial aspect of it. It ticks the technical aspect of it, the quality part of it, but it also ticks the social aspect of it, because we're not looking at launching the same technology in urban areas as compared to rural areas, and we can do that with this offer. If you think about developed geographies or areas like Johannesburg, as opposed to maybe the middle of Kinshasa somewhere. It's, you know, we've got the tools and the means to be able to allow utilities to use a bouquet of tools to solve their problems. So tremendously excited.
And when we talk about meeting utilities where they are, what are the best practices that you would recommend for utilities and municipalities to use when trying to implement a metering installation program and keep the momentum going?
So I'm going to use an analogy where, you know, sometimes you design a hammer and you look for things to fix with your hammer. My advice always to utilities is forget the hammer, right? We will get to the hammer. In fact, you might actually find that the solution is not the hammer. Understand the problem first, right? And often the problem is not unique to if you compare one utility to another. Most of the times it's the same. For instance, if you talk to any utility CFO, they will tell you, we want to get paid. We want to secure revenue from our people. We want to make sure that the service that we provide our people is decent. But for us to do that, we need to be able to make sure that the revenue we get is well managed. Then anything else that comes from that, it's basically, then how do we get to that? Do we use technical means? Do we use systematic means? Do we use consultancy to try and see how other people have done it before we do it? All that is just basically coming back to a solution. Initially, you have to make sure that the problem is clearly defined, right? By the time you come to us as market players, we will then help you craft a solution that solves the problem that you've already defined. We can't define your problem. So that's where we start with utilities.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us today and telling us about the value of African solutions for African problems. We really appreciate it. And
you.
to our viewers who are out there watching, thank you so much for watching this video. And you can make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see more content like this. Have a powerful day and goodbye for now.